So our first item is item 3A. Consider and take possible action to approve the resolution to set the 2018-2019 maintenance and operations tax at $1.17 for the purpose of maintenance and operations, and to set the 2018-2019 debt service tax rate at 0.242035 for the purpose of payment of principal and interest on debts. Do I have a motion? Motion by Trustee Solis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Resendez.
No. Sorry.
Trustee Flores, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Our parliamentarian advises us that the resolution needs to be read into the record in full. So, Trustee Solis, if you will read that resolution, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of $1.412035, which is effectively a 17.07% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Trustee Solis, seconded by Trustee Resendez. Discussion will start over on my right with Trustee Pinkerton.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. We've had a lot of discussion about this matter, I think starting really last fall, but moving into the spring. We've seen a lot of financial projections, which have been very helpful in trying to understand the situation that the district finds itself in right now. And one thing that's clear to me is that the state has not, it's really failed to keep up with the increasing cost of education. The other thing that's very clear to me is that it is important for this board to consider both the short-term and long-term health, financial health of this district. We need to keep both of those in mind as we move forward. The district has presented a plan to ensure the long-term financial health of the district, and I appreciate that. One of my concerns is that this board has not committed to that plan, and so as a matter of transparency to the taxpayer, that is something that I feel is very important for the board to do. And so I will remain committed to transparency and integrity on the part of this board to ensure that that the voters know where we stand as a board in our commitment to ensure that long-term financial health.
Trustee Foreman.
Thank you, and I'll make my statement, and then I will be done with making a statement on this because we've had lots of conversation. I want the public to have a clear understanding about my position of not supporting a tax increase or a tax ratification election of 13 cents per $100 valuation. I know I do not stand alone because in many other districts they have turned down a TRE. There is absolutely no question that I want Dallas ISD to be successful. I want the best education for all children while we prepare them for the workforce and college. I have arrived at this decision based on several factors. Number one, my constituents have overwhelmingly told me that they do not want additional tax increase. In many cases, their property values have gone up about 50% the past 5 years, and of course, that means they're paying double the taxes. And in the present, we will be asking them to pay additional taxes. And by the way, many senior citizens are not exempt. Number two, the new revenue pushes us into a position of sending hundreds of millions of dollars to the state because of recapture, or better known as Robin Hood. Taxpayers who think they will be sending their tax dollars to Dallas ISD schools are fooled because those hundreds of millions will be going into the state's general fund and not necessarily for education. Number three, the public is told clearly that there is no guarantee on how the dollars will be spent. The notation on the pages of the presentation clearly states current board members cannot obligate future boards. No different than the bond program. Give us the money and we will make the decision. No guarantee on how the money will be spent, period. Number 4, there is a real concern on the racial equity piece, or the FAIR Plan that many call it. Originally, there were 42 schools slated for the FAIR Plan. If all 42 schools apply for the money and receive it, that's only $71,428 per school. Clearly, that's not going to equalize our children. Number 5, we were just told by Superintendent Hinojosa that he agreed on a technology plan that did not address equalizing technology access in all of our schools. But we have a plan that's $146 million, still leaving some schools behind. Why should my community support that? Number 6, while we continue to pour additional dollars into early childhood, many African American children do not qualify for the program and are left in daycare facilities. How can we bring them up equally if we're not making sure that they have the same access? Number 7, based on district numbers, by the 3rd year, the additional revenue received will be underwater because of the millions sent to the state. And I'm almost through. Number 8, something that's near and dear to me. Gentrification in the city of Dallas is pushing our residents out of the city. And by taxing them more, we're going to push them out faster. It's amazing that the mayor of the city of Dallas, Mike Rollins, is pushing for a tax increase for Dallas ISD, but not for the city. And by the way, the county is also talking about not having a tax increase or cutting. Number 9, while in Austin a couple of weeks ago, I learned that charter schools will also get an uptick in per-student calculations. So that means charters already get about $1,600 more per student and will get additional dollars without even increasing their student enrollment. How fair is that? Number 10, the district has made great gains. I applaud the district in doing the things that it has done in the past couple of years. And so my question is not wavering against the administration, it's that we spend millions of dollars that we don't account for. Consultants, contractors that we don't really evaluate. We have few checks and balances of how money is spent other than the executive team. We bring in new programs with an objective that's never looked at. Our procurement system has changed, but it still has to do more changing. More money, but do we get better? I'm not quite sure. And I'll leave you with this. I am a firm believer that Dallas ISD can do well within the budget that it has. And I will continue to fight to make sure that we do well and that we do a better job expending the revenue that we have. Thank you.
Trustee Flores.
Thank you, Trustee Mitchke. I'm going to be supporting this vote. I think it's long overdue. I think it's long overdue for our students to be able to have the same kind of revenue that suburban school districts do when they raise their tax rates. And you know, frankly, I've jotted down a whole bunch of things, but I think that I'm just going to, you know, comment on one in particular. It seems to me that a vote against the TRE is basically a vote in favor of charter schools, because you're saying it's okay if they have more money. It's okay if they get more revenue than we do. And this is our opportunity to try to catch up. So I will be supporting this resolution. Thank you, President Mitchell.
Thank you. Trustee Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. So some of you have already heard this, but I still feel like it needs to be repeated. I think this has been a long road for a lot of folks, starting 2 years ago and culminating probably a year ago when this vote went before the board, before and all iterations of it didn't pass. So I say all that because it bothered me then. I guess it motivated me then, and it motivates me now just the same. I firmly believe, like I think all of our trustees on this board, that all of our kids can achieve at a high level. I think we're also obligated to make sure that they receive equitable opportunities. And that's why it bothered me then, because I know people in our community firmly believe in that idea that all of our kids can learn at a high level, but that's not what's happening. Why it bothers me and motivates me a bit now is because the administration has since proven that. So this idea that all of our kids can learn at a high level, they've shown, which we need to scale, that it's possible. We started with 43 IR schools. We're now sitting at 4. None of these IR schools are IR schools from the past, so that shows the strategic initiatives that our administration placed in our 13 IR schools worked to get them out of the bottom 5% of our state. It's also showed us things like we mentioned about JW Ray, which should be open still, but JW Ray is a school that is overwhelmingly low income and overwhelmingly black, 88% plus black kids. 4 years on IR. Strategic initiatives placed to put him at this school. Strong leadership, strong support staff, strong teachers. And that school ends up as an A, one of the highest performing in our district. So that confirms what we already know. All of our kids can learn at a high level. Latino, black kids, our Anglo kids. So they've shown that it's possible. And the same thing at Day. Those that are familiar with District 9, a few years ago, District 9, the kids were running the school and running the hallways. You get a strong person like Ms. Washington that's able to incentivize and recruit strong staff and teachers and educators and people from the community that commit to giving social and emotional support and all the things that you saw happen today. These things are strategic when we commit to our kids in our city. So we sit here now, that's not enough, right? I still think our African-American performance is not where it knows, and Dr. Hinojosa knows that. I talk about it all the time. But in order to scale that stuff up, we need resources. In order for us to replicate what happened at Ray for our other African-American kids in this district, we need resources. And that's why I pushed the administration since I've been elected to reinstate FAIR and to reinstate this idea of racial equity. Before I got on the board, they passed a racial equity resolution unanimously. Every person on this board said they're committed to racial equity. Beyond that, they created a racial equity department that's been working diligently so we can get a research-based plan that shows us how we can close this gap. And I have commitments from more than enough of our colleagues on this board to racial equity, because it doesn't matter what we say. We can only bind ourselves this year with the budget. What matters is what this board feels and how they feel about their commitment to racial equity. Without their commitment, which I think I have, we're not going to be able to close this gap for all of our kids, our African-American kids, our English language learners. So the commitment comes from this board. So I'm not concerned about a budget or not even a superintendent. If this board is committed to racial equity, we're going to get there. And I thank my colleagues for that support. And the last part, that money we don't get back. So 2016, 2017, we're not going to get it back. That's $100 million. We mentioned earlier that FAIR plan that had $40 million that was going to be dedicated to the very things that frustrate me the most. Which is, and I'll name my bias, our African-American kids performing where they're at. We know they can do better. It's gone. We're not getting it back. But right now, in this moment, in 2018, we can make a choice. It's gone 2016. It's gone 2017. But right now, I believe we have a moment to make a choice to support our administration and hold them accountable to make sure that all of our kids are learning at a high level, that all of our kids are getting equitable opportunities, IB programs, dual language. And these are the things we heard in the community knocking on doors. How do we get these programs in our community? This is a way that we can start to get these programs in our community so our kids can thrive the way we know they can. So, again, I'm going to close on this, and I believe deeply in the arts. And there's a play, and I mentioned this earlier, called Hamilton, and it says history has its eyes on us. So we started in 2016, 2017. We're sitting in the moment right now, and people are going to look back on this. Our kids are going to look back on this. Sandra from Lincoln High School, as she matriculates to college, is going to look back on us and wonder, what did we do? When the state did not bring the help that we needed, when they did not bring the cavalry, what did we do locally to support our kids in our city? And I think we should put that before our voters. Transparency, Mr. Betson, let them know the positives and the negatives, but let them know that this is an option, that we have the potential and the ability to really deliver on the promise of our kids. For that reason, as you'll find out later, I'm going to support putting this tax ratification election before the voters.
Trustee Solis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, especially Trustee Pinkerton, Flores, and Trustee Henry, because I think their points they got a lot of sticking power. More so, this is an election that's going to have to happen, and that means that there are going to be multiple months where doors will need to be knocked on, phone calls will need to be made, and the community should be made aware of why we need a tax ratification election. And at the same time, we need to ensure that we are dispelling the myths that will be put out there to try to stop this progress. So I want to make sure that I'm speaking to those that will be out there, knocking on the doors for kids, making phone calls for kids, to try to get this through. So one myth I want to dispel is that money goes back to the state anyway if this thing passes. Well, that's if we keep things going the way that things are going. If we continue to lose kids, if property values continue to rise, that weird formula will spit out a number in which we will eventually be giving some of this money back. But the very reason why we need a TRE, in my opinion, is to stop those things, to ensure that we're providing opportunities for our kids and we reverse the recapture conundrum. If we can fund more ACE programs, if we can expand early childhood education, if we can work on racial equity, parents and guardians will put their kids back in ISD. They're already doing it with the limited approach that we've been limited to. So the money goes back to the state if things stay the same way. But a TRE could change that. Another thing, no current board member can obligate another board. That's the case for every single decision that a board makes. It's also the case for every single decision that a superintendent makes. We don't know. I'd love to have you for as long as possible, Dr. Hinojosa, but we're not sure if you're going to remain. But the decisions that you make today will be the decisions you make today, and your predecessor will have to make their own decisions as well, your successor. So there goes that myth. Another thing, that the city and the county are not going to be asking taxpayers for their dollars. They're going to be giving money back. Well, you know what? They've got other options that they can use to try to raise capital. We are limited to the way that we can raise our money in DISD. And the biggest way we can raise it has nothing to do with anybody at this board, on this board, or our superintendent, or his administration. It has to do with the people in Austin. And session after session after session, they have failed us. So we can keep trying the same thing, hoping that they will give us the money that we need, or take matters into our own hands. The only other option we've got is a TRE. So let's dispel that myth. And then finally, there is a truth here. Charters are getting more money than Dallas ISD. And if we know that one of the biggest factors that's driving recapture is that we're losing kids to charter schools, then at the very least, our kids deserve the opportunity for us to level their playing field by giving them the type of resources and the type of money that they need to show that DISD isn't just going to be a B school district, which is really, really great, but an A school district, and that their dreams in this city can be fulfilled regardless of where they come from or what their circumstances are. And so I will be supporting this vote tonight, and I hope you all will get out there on the doors and make the phone calls necessary to bring a victory in November. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Resendez.
I knew I shouldn't have sat next to this guy. He stole my notes. Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, I just want to begin by thanking the administration, Dr. Hinojosa, you in particular, for all the work you've done throughout these few years, specifically with regard to the TRE. And I also want to thank my colleagues for asking so many important questions throughout this time. You know, it's been 3 years that we've been working on this, trying to get this right. And I share some of their concerns too. But as we all can see, we all know, DISD has been on a roll compared to a lot of other districts throughout the country. So I think we need to do all we can to keep the momentum going. We still have a lot of needs, and I think that the TRE is an opportunity to address those needs. So I'm excited. I think it's about time that we allow the voters to decide what they want to do with their money. So I'll be supporting this. And that's all I have.
Trustee Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also just want to begin by thanking Dr. Hinojosa and the senior administration. I think it takes a lot of chutzpah to bring a tax ratification election to this board once, and certainly twice, and damn sure on the third time. So I'm very grateful that you've been willing to take that risk. I'll be brief, but it's occurred to me this whole week that we've all been celebrating the TEA scorecard that came out, the A through F ratings, and this district got a B. And for as long as I can remember, we've been losing students, largely to the suburbs, and particularly the southern suburbs. Every one of them, except for Grand Prairie, did worse than us. And we did that with one arm tied behind our back. Just think what we can do with an additional $126 million. We've worked hard. We didn't get a B from some magic happening. We got it because there's teachers and there's principals and there's administrators working hard every day to educate our kids. And yet when they need the resources that they need to invest in our schools, our state is saying, no, we're not going to give you that money that you need. Now, I still hear a lot of politicos make the argument that raising your taxes is throwing good money after bad, and I think that used to be true in the ISD, but I tell you what, it's not true today. This board has worked with this administration to cut spending on the central office and put more money back into our classrooms, and we are using our money efficiently today. But we can't continue to cut our way to further success. It doesn't make any sense. You can't keep growing and improving educational outcomes by further cutting and cutting and cutting. We're called trustees because we are entrusted to do what is best for kids. And in my opinion, it is clear that the state is underfunding education in this state and that no cavalry is coming to our rescue. As Trustee Solis pointed out, we're left with one option. The only way that we can continue the trajectory that we are on and invest in programs that we know are working is by asking voters to approve a tax ratification election. This board is not sitting here tonight voting on a tax increase. We are voting to give voters the ability to choose to invest in the reforms that are working. I think they'll want to invest in our kids, that they will want to invest in building the workforce of the future of Dallas, that they will want to invest in improving equity across our schools, that they will want to invest in paying teachers more, that they will want to invest in pre-K, that they will want to invest in schools of choice, that they will want to invest in early college programs, that they will want to invest in increasing their own property value. I believe we should give voters that choice, and I'll be supporting this for the third time.
Okay. We need to pass this resolution, and we need to ask the voters to support our public schools with additional funding. This is the case that I'm going to make to my constituents. Dallas is one of the highest child poverty rates in the nation, and Dallas ISD has one of the lowest tax rates in North Texas. While many people in this room are familiar with a lot of this data, a lot of members of the public are not. By numerous measures, Dallas ISD is the most improved school district in the state. The TRE is a wise investment in the lives of our students and the future of Dallas. We've celebrated, perhaps not enough, because not enough people have really heard about this, that the district has reduced the number of IR schools from 43 in 2014 to 4 in 2018. Dallas ISD has 222 schools. The district has outpaced the state in reading gains over the last 4 years, showing growth of 10% compared to state growth at 2%. And the district has also outpaced the major charter schools in reading gains. Dallas ISD also outperformed the state by 5% in achievement growth on the 2018 STAR test. We've increased the number of collegiate academies from 5 to 23 in a 2-year period, with over 4,400 students participating in one of the academies. We've also had a 10-fold increase in vocational education and CTE certifications over the past 6 years. We have one of the largest dual language programs in the country. We've grown our pre-K program from 8,000 to almost 13,000 students in 5 years. Our magnet schools are among the best in the nation. We have a wide range of choice schools, including Montessori, single-gender, STEM, STEAM, personalized learning, and leadership academies that allow students and parents additional options beyond their neighborhood schools to find the best fit. We're in the process of rolling out social and emotional learning programs into the curriculum at all of our schools. We've had more schools recognized as National Blue Ribbon schools in the past 2 years than any other district in the state. We are one of only 22 districts out of more than 1,000 in the state to be recognized for increasing AP class offerings while maintaining scores. Our ACE program has been an enormous success in turning around struggling schools, and other districts have been replicating it. And we've seen amazing results, perhaps one no more amazing than that at Blanton, where fifth grade students at one of the highest poverty schools in the state outscored fifth grade students in Highland Park in math, where none of the students are economically disadvantaged. What we are doing is working, but the initiatives that we have put in place over the past 6 years require additional funding to continue this progress. The vast majority of our students are economically disadvantaged. Almost 45% of them are English language learners. And we have almost 4,000 homeless students. The challenges that our students and teachers face every day are enormous. Our students and our district have proven that these challenges can be overcome, but it requires funding. State funding has continued to lag the national average. The state of Texas is in the bottom quartile of states in terms of per pupil funding. In addition, Dallas ISD has one of the lowest tax rates, as I said, in North Texas. Highest child poverty, lowest tax rate. Doesn't make sense. We know that education is the great equalizer, and we know that the initiatives that we have put in place over the past 6 years are working. Voters in over 400 other districts have supported tax ratification elections. San Antonio ISD, for example, passed a 13 cents TRE in 2016 with over 70% of the vote. And as Superintendent Hinojosa has pointed out, 13 of the 14 school districts in Collin County have passed tax ratification elections. They know that investing in the schools is the right thing to do and a wise thing to do. None of these districts have a poverty level that is even close to the child poverty rate in Dallas ISD. If the TRE is passed, businesses will pay almost 60% of the increase. And yet the business and community in Dallas supports this tax ratification election. Why? Because they know we are on the right track, and they know that the future of Dallas depends on having an educated workforce. The tax increase on a house valued at $185,000, which is the median value of homes in Dallas, would be about $20 a month. That's also pretty close to the median value of homes in my district, District 3. And I think it's important to reiterate that taxpayers over 65 and disabled individuals would not experience a tax increase as a result of the TRE. Bottom line, visit any of our elementary schools. Look at our third grade students. Where will they be in 10 years? A lot depends on whether or not we have the funding to continue the initiatives that are working and to pay our teachers and other employees who dedicate their lives and tirelessly work to educate our kids. At this time, I'm calling for the vote. Trustees, please cast your votes.
I vote. I vote yes.
The motion passes 7 voting yes and 1 voting no.